Welcome to the Rise Above Project. I'm your host, Joe Perroni. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, champion bodybuilder, and I've been a personal trainer for about 30 years. This podcast is about helping people with their emotional, spiritual, and physical fitness. I value strength, toughness, and truth. I despise complacency, the victim mentality, and following the herd. If you find my work to be valuable, please subscribe to my channel and tell a friend. Today's show is entitled Blue Lies in Contemporary Society. Today I want to talk about lies, more specifically black lies, white lies, and the increasingly popular blue lies. Like some of the other shows I've done, the information might offend some people, but that's definitely not the goal. The goal is to seek the truth and let the evidence speak for itself. So let's get started. The reason I want to discuss this is because I know many people who are noticing that it's difficult to have a rational conversation anymore without somebody purposefully lying by omission, or hanging on to a lie due to ignorance and false pride. Many people, and that includes myself, have a difficult time understanding how lying is becoming so pervasive and is becoming accepted by many people who were thought to be respectable. They even gladly participate in the lying and deception. People are unwilling to hear the truth because they would rather hold on to a lie that serves them and the group that they identify with. And they're not being shamed for acting this way. As a matter of fact, the bigger and bolder the lie, the more loyalty and clout is earned within the group they are associated with. And there's actually media outlets that perpetuate lies for the benefit of a particular group at the expense of other groups. And this is where it really gets dangerous. Lying is big business now. One of the many things I am noticing about our culture, and is supported by studies, is that lying is not just acceptable, it's actually being rewarded and weaponized. You don't need powerful media outlets for propaganda anymore, although they exist. There are many citizens gladly and ignorantly willing to do the work for them. As lying becomes more accepted, trust in other people obviously starts to diminish. And to be upfront, blue lies would not exist in a society built on values and virtues. It is without a doubt a symptom of the decay of collective morality. And don't expect religion to help. Lying for Jesus is a form of pious fraud, which by today's standard in psychology would be called blue lies. Some Christians believe that lying to bring people closer to Jesus is to be commended. And this mindset and practice dates all the way back to the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. Although blue lies are a relatively new psychological term, the Christians have been practicing it for about 2,000 years, which includes lying and covering up child abuse and pedophilia. The Ninth Amendment, "Thou shalt not bear false witness," is merely a suggestion and is overridden if it benefits their group identity. The information I give you today may not be very optimistic or satisfying, but I hope it gives you a good framework to see how society is working today, maybe some thoughts on how to navigate it, and some reasons why people you may have respect for are becoming very difficult to have a relationship with. Let's start with a story. When I was growing up, my parents told me a mature person admits when they make a mistake. Mistakes can be corrected. They also told me that if I lied about anything, they would never have my back. If I told the truth, they would defend me until the death. When I was about 5 years old, I wanted to test my arm strength. And I started by building up an arsenal of rocks that I gathered from the front and backyards of my house. And for some reason, probably just because I was about 5 years old, I thought it would be a good challenge to see if I could stand in the front yard and throw the rocks over the house and see if I could get them into the neighbor's above ground pool. I was actually pretty good at it, but I missed a lot. And sometimes I had to resort to just throwing the rocks into the pool from over the fence rather than from over the house. Nonetheless, I was able to spend part of my day making believe I was Joe Namath throwing a football over a lineman's outstretched arms. And I saw myself throwing touchdown passes in the Super Bowl. But I was actually just vandalizing my neighbor's pool by throwing rocks in it. And believe it or not, I was proud of myself, but unfortunately nobody else was. The neighbor told my mother what I did, and she confronted me about it. And of course I lied. My mom proceeded to hit me with her hairbrush in front of the neighbors until I told the truth. And I decided not to go down without a fight. I was trying to see if I could make her arm tired before I would admit it. She broke one hairbrush on me before starting with another. Around 85 hits or so, I decided to tell the truth. And when my father came home, I had to tell him the truth also. But not just for the pool. I confessed about something else I had done. Days before, I wasn't able to get the rocks all the way over the house because I was still practicing. And some of the rocks hit the top of the house and they bounced off and they hit my dad's Cadillac in the driveway. Now, up until this time, he didn't know that I was the guilty party. So I told him the truth. And he was angry. But true to my parents' words, he praised me for being honest and for finally coming clean without actually being asked. Right about now, my parents are probably rolling over in their graves, seeing what is going on in today's society. Although my parents ran into hard times and didn't have a lot of money, they definitely had pride in being good people who did the right thing. Now, the example I gave you is called a black lie. Black lies are told for purely selfish reasons and usually start when children are about 3 years old. This is when they realize that their parents don't know what they don't see and hear, and they have a reasonable chance of getting away with it. In society, black lies create distance and mistrust. Now, a white lie is selfless, mostly harmless, and is rooted in empathy and compassion for another human being. Children start to tell white lies at around 7 years old. When I was 7 years old, my parents were divorced. I would see my dad on Sundays, and he would usually have a girlfriend with him. When I went back home, my mother would ask if I thought his girlfriend was pretty. I would always say, of course, that she was very ugly. And that was a white lie to make my mom happy. One day, my dad's girlfriend asked me if I thought she was prettier than my mom, which is, even at that age, I knew was absolutely and totally inappropriate. So I stood up for my mom and told her that she was ugly just even for asking. But that's an example of my truth at the time. In society, white lies can bring or keep people together and come from a place of kindness. Obviously, I wanted to be kind to my mother. Now, here's an example of a blue lie. When I was a kid, I answered the door by mistake, and it was somebody from the Child Protection Agency. My mother was working and obviously wasn't there, but I told the lady that I wasn't allowed to wake my mom because she was sleeping. And for some really odd reason, and I guess some luck, she was okay with that explanation and she left. And obviously that was a blue lie because I was trying to preserve the family. And in that sense, lying could be considered to be a good thing. Blue lies are a relatively new term in psychology that is being utilized in studies on moral reasoning in children. More recently, it is being utilized in trying to study why lying is becoming acceptable in society, and most prolifically, in politics. Blue lies are told in behalf of a group to gain an advantage and show loyalty. By age 11, children will lie to get an advantage in team sports. Blue lies in society bring one group together and distance, marginalize, and in some cases, dehumanize the other group. The blue lie was originally a term stemming from lies that police told to cover up for each other. Most Americans accept that our military and intelligence agencies lie because we don't care if they're moral. We just want to win. In sporting events, most people who root for a team won't complain if a referee makes a mistake in their favor. But in the end, who cares? It's just a game for everybody's entertainment. However, as the United States becomes more polarized due to social media, disgruntled people, and anti-intellectualism, we are fighting against ourselves. And these aren't games anymore. There are life and death consequences. There are some among us who harshly judge others' lifestyles and declare some people to be un-American. It appears some people are still trying to gain closure over the Civil War. In our narcissistic culture, e pluribus unum, which is Latin for out of many, one, is outdated. We are now competitively divided with a winner at all cost attitude, even among Americans. Many people who choose a side see lies as a weapon of war, not as character flaws or being morally bankrupt. So now this is why Trump supporters see him as a strong leader instead of a partisan liar. In the Reagan 80s, we were told that greed is good. With the emergence of Trump, we have a world leader showing that lying is good. His lying has no downside to his base. And yeah, they may cringe a little, but not enough to denounce it or to relinquish their support. PolitiFact has deemed Trump's disputed statements as being only 4% true, which means that about 96% of his statements have some degree of deception. If people truly wanted the best for America, they would want the truth. Instead, most seem to only want the best for themselves, but they don't have the facts to make proper decisions. Many people are invested in triggering their so-called enemies and don't want to know the truth because it may challenge their identity and belief systems. Typically, these people are known as trolls. According to fact checkers, Trump is a pathological liar who has lied almost, get this, 11,000 times since being in office. Those with antisocial personality disorder, also known as psychopaths or sociopaths by lay people, they know the difference between true and false and right and wrong, but they don't care. Now that's a big problem, but that's not the whole problem. It's troubling that his supporters, which include evangelical Christians, not only look the other way, they openly praise him and emulate his lying. Lying is a feature, and it's not a bug of his presidency, and serves to bring together his base at the expense of others. Now, let's be clear about black and blue lies concerning Trump and his supporters. Trump is a self-aggrandizing narcissist who lies for his own personal gain and power. The childish, unprofessional, ad hominem attacks are due to his own inner shame. His need to hurt and degrade people is a manifestation of his malignant narcissism. He lies because he has a fractured sense of self and will do or say anything to give the impression of strength, and it gives him actual pleasure to diminish other people, and it lowers his pain to lash out at others. His emotional dysregulation and instability reveal his weakness. Trump deals in black lies on a constant basis and has throughout his life. His lies as president are signals to his base, which makes them blue lies. His supporters appreciate his lies and repeat them. For them, they can be considered to be blue lies because they understand that they are lies, but it supports their agenda. Thus, they are willing to go along with the program. There are some supporters who are willfully ignorant and want to be a part of the group, so they will accept and justify almost anything. He even said, and he's probably not that far from being truthful here, he said if he shot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue, he wouldn't lose any supporters. I would have to probably agree with that, actually. Now, some of these supporters are just ignorant and they pass around false information, which technically means they are not lying, although in most instances they are underinformed or misinformed. Do you remember all the conservatives complaining about the deficit? Yeah, they don't do that anymore because the debt is exploding. So instead of admitting that there's a problem and trying to fix it, they either justify it or don't say anything. And you can call that a blue lie by omission. For a decent, upstanding citizen, it can be infuriating to be in the presence of another human being that is willing to justify any degree of poor behavior and lying just to support an ideology with obvious flaws. I'm sure I'm not the only person who has dealt with this. I lost a sponsor for my show a couple of years ago because he was angry that I said a fact on the air. It's an indisputable fact that can be referenced at any time. And just to be clear, I'll give you an example. January 20th, 2009, when Obama took office in a recession, the stock market was 7,949. On March 9th, 2009, the stock market was 6,547, which is about 2 months into Obama's presidency. When Obama left office, the Dow was at 19,827. Now, as odd as it seems, I've not been able to get not one conservative to admit that 19,000 is a bigger number than 8,000. We can assume that this is obviously not a math problem. There is something going on much deeper than that. What is the actual true agenda then of why somebody can't admit to a fact? Professional relationship aside, what would possess a good person who believes in my mission statement to be so offended and unwilling to face an indisputable fact? The simple answer is that in our contemporary society, some people are more loyal to a tribe or a mindset than they are to facts and reason. In my personal situation, the person I was dealing with became a liar and willfully ignorant to fit in with his conservative friends. And I think we're all seeing that all around the country. Trump did not create any of this, so he's not to blame, but he definitely knows how to capitalize on it. Now, it's no secret that he has tapped into a hateful segment of the electorate who believes they are culturally and morally superior based on their skin color and religion. These types of people were relatively hidden for a while, but now they are empowered and are starting to reveal themselves. They reveal themselves by being willfully oblivious to facts and by perpetuating and justifying blue lies that support their once hidden agenda. Perhaps it's a lack of self esteem and the creation of a false identity that leads people to engage in blue lies. I'm happy to say that this poison has not completely affected the sports world yet, although it has some. Sports fans notoriously and outrageously build up their identity based on a sports team, hence the term fanatic. However, as a New York Jets fan, I can say without hesitation that Joe Namath and the Jets won Super Bowl III, and the Jets have not played in another Super Bowl since then. And as much as it pains me, I can also state that the New England Patriots have been in the Super Bowl 11 times and have won 6. Any Jets fan would admit this, no matter how much they hate it. This mentality doesn't exist in politics, where black and blue lies are dominant. Or better yet, conservatives have now coined the term alternative facts. So the question becomes, why are these lies so pervasive and acceptable in contemporary society? And there's no easy answers, but here's a start. Since the year 2000, people are more motivated to vote based on fear and loathing than they are on loyalty. Negativity, bias, and anger is an adaptive response from fear and loathing and is fast becoming the primary tool to motivate people. Political scientists at Stanford have noted that it's more effective to incite the electorate against a group than it is to entice the electorate to approve of a group. This will ensure that there will be an increase in negative attacks and trying to dehumanize the opponent. Inciting anger toward individuals or groups with pithy sound bites can only happen in an anti-intellectual, superficial, low information society. A tabloid or reality TV approach to important issues should never be acceptable in a modern advanced society, but it is now. Studies show that emotions move people to action more than facts. Currently, anger is a significant part of the American experience. 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. According to the NLIHC, $18.65 is the baseline national housing wage for a modest one-bedroom apartment. Based on the minimum wage, someone would need to work, get this, 103 hours per week to afford a one-bedroom apartment, or 127 hours per week to afford a two-bedroom apartment. People are working harder for less. 87% of people are dissatisfied with their job, and many are feeling helpless and hopeless. To make matters worse, they are being told a lie which shames and guilts them. The blue lie here is that this is the greatest economy ever. Obviously, it's not. In addition, cell phone use is becoming an addiction. I can't tell you how many times I've been out to dinner and I see a young couple out on a date having a menage a trois with a cell phone. There is also very little incentive on social media platforms to follow basic etiquette and decency rules. Bottom line, many people are financially stressed, socially disconnected, and lack agency in their lives. This creates fear for the future, fear of others, hostility, lack of compassion for others, and a lot of rage and anger. This has changed the landscape of the political, social, and moral arenas and is a symptom of a very distressed society. Dr. Judy Twenge, author of 6 books on narcissism and the entitlement culture, says as narcissism increases, there is a direct causation to a reduction in empathy and compassion for others. Narcissism spreads throughout society like a virus. Unfortunately, you can't compete with narcissism in the world without becoming somewhat narcissistic yourself. As Nietzsche has said, whoever fights monsters should see to it that you don't become a monster. If you gaze into the abyss long enough, the abyss will gaze back into you. As this vicious cycle of narcissism and lack of compassion for others increases, people become more desensitized to perform actions that only benefit them or their group. This is part of the toxic pool in which blue lies and the increase in hate crimes have come. The expansion of narcissism and lack of empathy is becoming more alarming very quickly due to social media, or what I like to call anti-social media. The impersonal nature of texting and having the ability to see or hear only what you want to has devolved society to a point where people have trouble connecting to others. And many times they connect only to people who agree with them. This reinforces that people will have an identity with one group and be extremely dismissive and hostile to outside groups. This is why lying is pervasive and acceptable in our society. If lying helps the group one identifies with, then it will be accepted. It also answers the question, why doesn't Trump lose support when he doesn't follow through on a campaign promise or does something that directly hurts his supporters? It's due to their overwhelming hatred, fear, and loathing for the other party. The negativity bias behavior in today's culture undermines traditional values and morality. People are not trying to learn about each other and form bonds. They are more likely trying to humiliate each other. There are no signs that negative polarization will slow down or will reverse itself at this time. In review, a blue lie is a lie that supports loyalty to an in group. It shows cooperation to the people we think are good at the expense of all the other groups. Blue lies are a manifestation of a decay in society. In concert with alternative facts, it can only exist in an angry, narcissistic, morally deficient society where people are unwilling to challenge deception due to trying to gain favor with their in group. In order for blue lies to stop, the opposition needs to come from within the group. The opposition can't come from the outside group because that will only bring mistrust, increased defensiveness, and give the group a reason to fight back. I'm Joe Perroni from the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend.